All right, welcome back, folks. Professor Almeida here, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through the project I assigned for Access Module 3 in COSA 50. This is going to be the last walkthrough video, and I want to congratulate you for making it this far into the course. You can do this, and again, once you have mastered Access Module 3, it should be smooth sailing from there. Now, a couple of housekeeping items before I get into what Module 3 is all about. First of all, this video is going to run long, just like Access Chapter 2. I will do my best to edit it after, but if you need breaks, take them. You have the pause button just because there is a lot to get through. Additionally, as with Excel, you're going to have a capstone project covering these first three chapters, these first three modules of Access. There is no walkthrough video for the capstone. You'll have to show me what you know. Hopefully you've been taking notes along the way. Of course, you have the full ebook. You have your SAM trainings. Hopefully you have been keeping the project instructions. Of course, if you need to, you can print them out and then you can scribble all over them. That way you have notes. So, Module 3 is on maintaining a database. Now, over time, as you are adding records, changing records, deleting records, maybe for regulatory reasons, you need to keep track of other things. That means adding more fields. Over time, your database is going to grow, things are going to change, and you need to know how to manage your database. Now, keep in mind, we're only covering the first three chapters of Access. We're not going to get into other aspects of using Access. For example, design view with forms and reports. You can read all about it in your ebook. So with that, let's get into the desktop here for one last time. Now to celebrate, I have a brand new Windows 11 VM that I just set up. Hopefully all will go well in this video. And you can see that I have MindTap open here. And of course, you have full access to the ebook here. And chapter 3 is on maintaining a database. Here are the objectives for this chapter. So for example, you're going to learn how to create what's called a split form. We're going to be searching for and deleting records. Now, there will be some action queries that we're going to cover. You know, we're not out of the woods with queries yet. So you can see here, using action queries to add, change, or delete records. We'll look into validation and relationships. You'll learn how to create a lookup field or work with lookup fields and all of that good stuff. So by the end of this chapter, you should be able to master these concepts. All right, here's the Access 3 project. We'll go ahead and start. Hopefully by now, you know how all of this works. Grab your instructions and your start file. Don't forget to choose keep when you see this warning. All right, let me get all set up and I will see you on the other side for one last time. All right, if you're ready, let's get going here. So I've already created a backup of my start file. And remember, as before, you need to right-click Properties, check Unblock, and then that way all you need to do is enable content when you launch your database here. All right, step 1. Connect Marketing Group is a national company that provides marketing services such as contact research, brand building, and merchandising to retail stores. As a sales analyst, you need to update the company database regularly. You want to improve the table designs and use forms to enter and maintain data. Create a split form for the company's table and save it using company split as the name. Do not close the form. So a split form basically splits the view where the top half is the form view and the bottom half is actually the table datasheet view. Let me show you how this works. I'm going to select the company's table because, again, if you read the instructions here, we're creating a split form for the company's table. So again, make sure you select the companies table. Go to the Create tab, Forms group, More Forms, Split Form. And this is what it looks like. Again, you can see the form view at the top and you have your datasheet view at the bottom. Let's go ahead and save this form, and it's going to be called Companies Split. Now they do tell us to leave the form open. Step 2, switch the company split form to form view. And we do that by going to the views group in the form layout design tab. And you'll see form view is the first option. So this is what form view looks like here. And they are asking us to add a record using the values shown in table 1 to enter data for a new company, then close the company split form. Now, we haven't really talked about adding new records when you have a whole bunch of records like this. And this also works in datasheet view, by the way. You're going to see down here where it says record, one of your options is new blank record. Now, when you click on new blank record, you have the choice of using form view or datasheet view. Now, company ID is set to auto number. So we're going to skip company ID and hit the tab key. That brings us to company name, which is home market. Double check your typing, folks. Hit tab, retail stores, 35. Now, as soon as I hit tab, my record is automatically saved. And at this point, I can go ahead and close the form. Step 3, open the contact split form in form view to maintain records for Connect Marketing contacts. Update contact records as follows. So we need to open contact split in form view. And you can do that by just double clicking on contact split. This is form view. And if you were to right click, you'll see you have your other view options here, layout and design view. So you can see that this is also a split form. Part A, search for and navigate to the record with a contact ID field value of 20032 for Kareem Aziz. Well, we happen to be in the contact ID field here. So I can just simply bring up find and replace. I can do that by going to the home tab, find group. Here's find, or our good old friend Control F. This brings up find and replace. Find what? 20032. Now you can see here, look in current field, and I'm currently in the contact ID field. So double check, make sure you're in the contact ID field, and make sure that it says to look in the current field. I'll click find next. There's Kareem Aziz. And you can see here in part B, we're being asked to replace the address number. So instead of 443, it's 410. So let me close the find and replace dialog box, and I'll go in to the address field here for Kareem, and I'll make that change. 410 East Elmwood Avenue. Now, moving right along. Part C. Search for and navigate to the record with a contact ID field value of 20045 for Ramona Torres. Once again, I need to be in the contact field. I'll bring up find again, and this time I will do a search for 20045. Double check your settings here. Find next. There's Ramona Torres. And here, we're being asked to delete the record for Ramona. There's my right-facing arrow for the row with 20045. I'll right-click on the row and choose Delete Record. Now, this brings up scary warning dialog box here. You are about to delete one record. If you click yes, you won't be able to undo this delete operation. Are you sure you want to delete these records? In this case, yes. And I know it's very tempting because you see the colorful yes button here, so be careful. Close the contact split form. All right, how are we doing, folks? And just as a disclaimer, Microsoft 365 apps are typically updated on a monthly basis. So if you're watching this from the future, things might look a little bit different, as you might have noticed with the scary warning dialog box. And if you need a break, you do have that pause button. All right, continuing right along. Step 4, Connect Marketing provides 4 types of services to its clients. Open the services table in Design View and add a lookup field as follows to make it easy to enter service types. So under tables, we have services. I'll right-click Design View. Part A, use the lookup wizard to change the service type field to a lookup field. Select the option to type in the values that you want. All right, so let's back up here. Service type, instead of short text, it needs to be a lookup field. And we're going to use the lookup wizard here as the data type. And I will type in the values that I want. Now, for some of you Access gurus out there who already know how to go into the lookup tab, you don't need to use the wizard. But of course, you need to know the syntax. And if you don't know the syntax, that's where this wizard comes in. So again, I will type in the values that I want. And let's continue with the instructions here. Part B, enter the values shown in table 2 in the order shown. Double check your typing, folks. So we'll start with e-commerce. Hit the down arrow. Marketing. Down arrow. Retail. Down arrow. And then finally sales. Don't hit the down arrow here. Click next. Part C just tells you limit the values to only the items in the list and do not allow multiple values for the field. So we're going to check the box here, limit to list. Do you want to store multiple values for this lookup? And again, do not allow multiple values. So we'll leave this unchecked. We'll go ahead and click finish. Now you'll notice service type shows up as short text, but watch what happens when I switch over to the lookup tab here. Row source. Here are the 4 items. Notice the syntax. So if you make a typo, you can just go right in and edit directly. So again, you have the 4 values here under row source in the lookup tab. Again, if you know what you're doing, you could just type these 4 values in. Otherwise, you need to use the lookup wizard. Part D, save the changes to the table design, but do not close the table. All right, so we'll click save. You also have Control S. Step 5, switch the services table to datasheet view and then correct an error by using the lookup list to change the service type field value to marketing for service ID SV1504 and then close the services table. So let's go back and switch to datasheet view here for services. Now we need to change the service type field value to marketing for SV1504. Of course, I can go ahead and use find and look for SV1504. Click find next. So right now it's set to retail, and I can use the drop down to switch it to marketing. Now, one of the things that we did earlier in the lookup wizard, we restricted the service type values to these 4 options. I can't just type whatever I want. I have to choose between the 4. Now, if I know these 4 values, I can just type it right in, or I can use the drop down. But again, I'm limited to these 4 values. So if I try to type in something else, see, it's not going to let me. Okay, this is one form of data validation. Close the services table. Remember, you don't need to save because it's a record and it's saved automatically. Step 6, open the accounts table in datasheet view. Let's do that. And then add a field to the table to calculate the annual payment amount as follows. Part A, add a new field to the end of the accounts table using the calculated data type and the currency format. So I'll go to click to add, calculated field, currency. This brings up the expression builder. Now, if you recall, I talked about the differences between the expression builder and Zoom in chapter 2. Go back and watch that walkthrough video for more. And remember, if you don't know how to create an expression, or if you're not sure if you need these options, that's where the expression builder comes in. Part B, use the expression monthly bill times 12 to calculate the field values. Now you can type it in, but I can also double click on the expression category, monthly bill, and it's already enclosed in brackets. And then I can just add times 12, just like that. I'll click OK, and you'll see there's the calculation. And now I'm being prompted to rename the field here. The name of the field is annual bill. And then hit the down arrow. Save the changes to the accounts table and then close it. Moving right along, step 7. Connect Marketing is adding 2 staff members to every sales team. Update the services table as follows to reflect this change. So we're going to be working with the services table, and you'll see in part A, they tell you to go to query design. We're going to go into query design, and that means the create tab queries group, and then we'll click on query design. You can see that services table is selected by default. We'll go ahead and add selected tables. I don't need to resize this window. I'll close add tables. And again, in part A, we're being asked to create an update query based on the services table. So this is one of 4 action queries that you're going to see here. Part B, select the service type and team fields from the services table. So we want service type, we'll double click, and then team, double click. Part C, add criteria to select only those records where the service type values equal sales. So service type, and I'll bring the design grid up a little bit. Service type, the criteria, I just type in sales. Now part D, they're asking us to update the team field using team +2 as the expression for the new field value. So first of all, I need to change this to an update query. And we do that in the query design tab, query type. I'll click on update. Now, as I mentioned, there are 4 action queries you're going to see here: make table, append, update, and delete. We're going to start with update, and you'll see how the rows change here. And for the team field, I'm going to click into the update to row, and I will type in team +2. Okay, so use the brackets for field names, team +2. Part E, save the query using update services as the name, run it, and then close it. The query should update 4 records. So let's first save this query as update services. Now we'll go ahead and run the query, and you'll see here you are about to update 4 rows. Once you click yes, you can't use the undo command to reverse the changes. Remember, I talked about this back in chapter 1. Are you sure you want to update these records? Yes, I do. And now we can close the query. All right, so how are we doing? If you need a break, you do have that pause button. All right, so as I mentioned before, I'm going to do my best to narrow down this video as much as I can, but I do thank you in advance for your patience and understanding. We do have quite a bit to get through, especially now since we're covering action queries. And in step 8, you're going to learn how to create a make table query. Let's take a look here. Connect Marketing is developing a special program for contacts in Florida and Georgia. Create a new table for contacts in these states as follows. In Part A, in Query Design View, create a Make Table query that selects all the fields from the contacts table in the same order that they are listed in the field list. Select all the fields individually for the design grid. Do not use the asterisk. All right, so let's back up here. I'm going to go into the Create tab, Queries group, click Query Design, and this is going to be based on the contacts table. So I need to select contacts and then click Add Selected Tables. I'm going to right click on the contacts window here, size to fit. And again, they're asking us to add all of the fields to the design grid and not to use the asterisk. So let's go through one by one here. I'm going to double click on each. Contact ID, first name, last name, address, city, state, postal code, date of birth. And let me bring up the design grid a little bit so you can see here. Add criteria to select only those records where the state field value is Florida or Georgia. So this is a compound criteria query, and it's an OR query. So the state field value, it's Florida or Georgia. So I'll start with Florida and then right below Georgia. Okay, as you can see here in the design grid. Part C, in the Make Table dialog box, assign the name Program Contacts to the new table. So I'm going to create a Make Table query. Again, Query Design tab, Query Type. Here's Make Table. This is the second action query you're learning about in this module. So here's the Make Table dialog box. The table name is going to be Program Contacts. Double check your typing. Current database, click OK. Part D, save the query using FLGA contacts as the name, run it, and then close it. The new program contacts table should contain 7 records. So let's first go ahead and save this query as FLGA contacts. Remember, it's all caps for FLGA and then capital C. So again, make sure you check your typing here. I'll click OK. And by the way, have you noticed the different icons for the action queries here? Let's go ahead and run the query. You are about to paste 7 rows into a new table. Once you click yes, you can't use the undo command to reverse the changes. Are you sure you want to create a new table with the selected records? Yes, I do. And now you have your program contacts table. Let me go ahead and close the query, and I'll double click on program contacts just to show you. Here's your brand new table. And I'll go ahead and close that as well. Step 9, accounts with a $0 monthly billing amount represent completed contracts that can be removed from the accounts table. Remove the records as follows. Now, normally we don't delete records, but we do have another action query called a delete query. Be careful when you do this because, as you have seen, there is no undo. In Part A, in Query Design View, create a delete query for the accounts table. So I'll go ahead and select Accounts, go to Create Queries, Query Design. You've seen this before. And I'll double click on the accounts table in the Add Tables pane. We'll close Add Tables, right click, size to fit, bring up the design grid. You've seen this before. Remove the records as follows. Again, in Part A, we're going to create a delete query for the accounts table. Part B, select the monthly bill field from the accounts table. So I'll double click monthly bill. Part C, add criteria to delete only those records where the monthly bill field value equals 0. So for criteria, I just type 0. That's all I need to do. Now we'll change this to a delete query. Query design, query type, there's delete. Make sure the criteria is 0. Save the query using delete accounts as the name, run it, and then close it. The query should delete 5 records. So let's double check real quick. Monthly bill field from the accounts table, delete where criteria equals 0. We'll go ahead and save this query. And again, it's going to be called delete accounts. And then go ahead and run the query. You are about to delete 5 rows from the specified table. Let's double check. Again, the query should delete 5 records. You are about to delete 5 rows from the specified table. Once you click yes, you can't undo, right? You can't use the undo command to reverse the changes. Are you sure you want to delete the selected records? I know it's tempting to click on this colorful yes button, but take a moment, double check, and then when you're ready, click yes. And then we can close the query. Again, notice the different icons here. Step 10. Contacts in Oregon should be added to the West Coast table. Add the records as follows. In Part A, in Query Design View, create an append query for the contacts table. So let's select the contacts table, go to the Create tab, Queries Group, Query Design. I'll double click on the contacts table from Add Tables, right click, Size to Fit, bring up the design grid. So far, you have seen make table, update, delete, and now it's time to look at the append action query. Part B, select all the fields from the contacts table in the same order that they are listed in the field list. Select all the fields individually for the design grid. Do not use the asterisk. So, as before, in the contacts table, contact ID, and again, I'm double clicking here, first name, last name, address, city, state, postal code, date of birth. Part C, add the criteria OR to the state field. You can also enclose OR in quotes. That works too. Part D, select West Coast as the destination table in the append dialog box. So we need to make this into an append query. Again, query design tab, query type, click on append. Append to table name, I'll use the drop down and we want West Coast. Current database, click OK. And you can see append to has been filled out. And again, notice the criteria here. OR is enclosed in quotes. That's totally fine. Part E, save the query using append West Coast as the name. And then we'll go ahead and run this query. You are about to append 3 rows. Once you click yes, you can't use the undo command to reverse the changes. Are you sure you want to append the selected rows? So again, they're asking us to run it and then close it. The query should append 3 records. Well, there you go, 3 rows. Click yes, and we can go ahead and close the query. And that takes care of step 10. So that's how action queries work in Access. And as I've mentioned before, you have the ebook, you have your SAM trainings. Make sure you practice and also take notes along the way. If you need a break, you have the pause button. All right, so how are we doing? Remember, this is our last walkthrough. You've made it this far. You can get through this. All right, let's talk about data validation in Access. You've seen some techniques so far, such as changing the field size or restricting what can go into a lookup field. And now we're going to look at some other techniques so that someone can't just come along and mess up your database and type whatever they want. All right, step 11. Open the companies table in Design View and then change the field size property for the retail stores field to double to save storage space for the field values. save the changes to the companies table, and then close it. So we need to open the companies table in design view. So we'll right click on companies, go to design view, change the field size property for the retail stores field. So make sure we click on retail stores. Field size is set to long integer. We're going to use the drop down and switch to double. To save storage space for the field values, save the changes to the companies table and then close it. So remember, anytime you change the field properties, you do need to save your table. Step 12, open the services table in design view. All right, so right click on services. Let's go to design view. To add field properties that improve data entry accuracy as follows. Part A, add marketing as the default value for the service type field since most services are in the marketing category. So let's click on service type and you'll see in the field properties grid, default value, we're going to type in marketing. Now, the reason for this is because most of the records you're entering will be marketing as the service type. So you can do that if you have a whole lot of records. And then for the few records here and there where the service type isn't marketing, you can just individually change them. This should save time when you're entering a whole bunch of new records, or maybe you're bringing a bunch of records in to the services table. Part B, enter a validation rule for the team field. So let's click on team here. And again, enter a validation rule for the team field to ensure that values in the field are less than 15 since the maximum team size is 14. So the validation rule is simply less than 15. Now in part C, we're going to enter some validation text for the user. Must be less than 15 in the validation text property box. So for validation text, we're going to type must be less than 15. And there's no period. Okay, so be careful. Type exactly what they show you in the instructions. Okay, you don't want to carelessly or needlessly lose points here. Part D, save the changes to the services table, but do not close it. Now, when you go to click save, you get this warning. Data integrity rules have been changed. Existing data may not be valid for the new rules. This process may take a long time. Do you want the existing data to be tested with the new rules? Now, they do give you a hint. Because a validation rule was added, a warning message appears asking if you want to test the data. The data is valid, so ignore this message and continue saving the table. I'll go ahead and choose yes. Now, let's test this out. I'll switch over to datasheet view and don't change anything here, but just watch what happens. So if I go to type 15, okay, just watch. Don't do this on your own, but just watch. Here is that validation text. Must be less than 15. So that's what we did here. We restricted the team field to have values less than 15. So I just wanted to show you that. 13, switch the services table to datasheet view. So here you go. We're in datasheet view now. Because sales reps sometimes show the table to clients, format the datasheet as follows. Part A, display only horizontal grid lines in the datasheet. Now, if you look in the Home tab text formatting group, you should see grid lines. We want grid lines horizontal. Now, you'll know that grid lines horizontal has been selected because you should see this border around the box here. Okay, and if you click on grid lines horizontal again, see how you don't have that border there? Make sure grid lines horizontal is selected. Now, part B, change the alternate row color to gold accent 4, lighter 80%, 8th column, 2nd row in the theme colors palette. Remember the hint I have given you in the past here. If you look in alternate row color, theme colors. You want gold accent 4, but go down the column. Remember the pattern: lighter 80%, lighter 60, lighter 40, darker 25, darker 50. So again, lighter 80%. Again, make sure it's gold accent 4, lighter 80%. There's the alternating row colors. Save the changes to the table and then close it. Step 14, open the accounts table in datasheet view, as you can see here. And then calculate billing totals as follows. Part A, add a total row to the datasheet. Now we can add a total row by going to the Home tab, Records group, click Totals, and there's the total row at the bottom. Part B, calculate the sum for the monthly bill field. So here's the monthly bill field. I'm going to click into the corresponding cell in the total row. And in this drop down, I have a number of different functions to choose from. And for monthly bill, we are calculating the sum for monthly bill. So I'm going to choose sum. Part C, calculate the average for the contract total field. So I'll click into the cell in the total row for contract total, and I'll choose average. Save the changes to the table and close it. And by the way, you can hide the totals row like this. Okay, and here it is again. Make sure it's sum and average. Go ahead and save the accounts table and then close it. All right, we're almost at the end here, folks. Let's get into relationships and talk about why this is important in Access. Step 15, open the relationships window. So let's do that first. If I go to Database Tools, Relationships group, I'll click on Relationships and add the companies and accounts table to the relationships window. So again, companies and accounts. So we'll start with companies. I'll double click and then double click accounts. I'll close add tables. Do I need a size to fit? You know what? I'll do that for accounts. Okay, well, we have all the fields here. Now, create a one-to-many relationship between the company ID field in the companies table and the company ID field in the accounts table. So Access is a relational database. And going back to my example with the book publishing company, now think about this. It would make sense if you have one book rep to many customers, right? So one book rep to many customers. But it wouldn't make sense if you had one customer with many book reps. Imagine that if you're trying to contact a book publishing company like Cengage, right? And you get a different book rep every time. You know, usually a book publishing company will establish a relationship with their clients. They'll have the same book rep. So one book rep, many customers. And that's the same idea what we're doing here. We are creating a one-to-many relationship, in this case, between the company ID field in companies and the company ID field in accounts. Now, the reason for this is because we already have the records with the unique company ID values, and we want to refer to them in the accounts table. So let's go ahead and create that one-to-many relationship. Here's how it works. I'm going to take company ID from companies. Notice the primary key here. And I'm going to drag it right over company ID in accounts. And this brings up the Edit Relationships dialog box. Make the relationship enforce referential integrity and then save the relationship. So what does that mean? If I check enforce referential integrity, what that means now is that I can't just put whatever company ID I want in the accounts table. The company ID values in the accounts table have to correspond to records in the company's table. Now you have these other two checkboxes here. So if you were to update the company ID in companies, it would reflect the change in accounts. And likewise, if you delete certain companies from the companies table, those changes will also be reflected in accounts as well. But we're only checking enforce referential integrity. I'll go ahead and click create, and you'll see that one-to-many relationship with this join line here. And remember, we need to save the relationship. So now that we've saved this relationship, how does this work? If we go to the companies table in step 16 here, if we go to the companies table in datasheet view, you'll see sub data sheets for the different accounts. Okay, so let me close relationships and show you here. Let me open up companies in datasheet view. Now you'll see these little plus symbols here. So we'll start with Diamond Discount. You can see that Diamond Discount has an account. Okay, there's the sub data sheet, and I can make changes directly in this sub data sheet. This is referring to the accounts table, by the way. Let's look at Harvey Companies. They have an account. General Mart has an account. Shoppers Best has 2 accounts. Okay, so you can see how the relationship is being enforced here. Now, let's display the sub data sheet for the company with company ID 9. That's Superstar. All right, so we'll go ahead and expand this. They have 2 accounts. Update the monthly bill amount for account A34354 to $500. Okay, so the monthly bill, we're going to change this to 500. And I'll go ahead and hit enter, and there's the change. Close the company's table. Remember, we don't have to save because when you update records, they are saved automatically. And as a matter of fact, you know what? I'll just click off of A34354. That record is now saved. So I hope that this makes sense. And I also hope that you consider using Access now that you've seen what you can do with an Access database. All right, here we go. We're at the end. Save and close any open objects in your database. Compact and repair your database. Close it and then exit Access. Follow the directions on the website to submit your completed project. All right, so let's make sure that we don't have any open objects. Go to the File tab, Info, Compact and Repair, and then we'll close completely out of Access. And it's time for the moment of truth, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for your patience and understanding. All right, we've made it to the end here. And are you still there? Why, yes, I am. All right, let's go ahead and turn in our project. Click submit. All right, let's go ahead and grab that graded summary report. As before, click keep. And let's see how we did here. As before, there is a lot going on. And let's say this happens. The active content in this file is blocked. Review your Trust Center settings or contact your ID administrator. Well, I happen to be the admin of my own machine here. Well, you know what? It opened up, but if you're having issues, don't forget with your reports, you need to, well, first of all, I need to close out of Access. Let me do this. So if you run into issues, remember, right-click Properties, unblock. All right, let's try that again. So you've seen what could happen here. I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, well, it worked this time. Let's go down to grading report, and you'll see 100 out of 100. All right, how are you feeling? If you got 100 out of 100, congratulations. You are now done with all of your projects, at least until the capstone projects. Thanks for being on this journey with me. I hope that these videos have been helpful. I know that some of these videos have been quite long, but it's my hope that you're able to successfully get through these projects. With that, I wish you the best of luck on Access Module 3. I wish you the best of luck with your capstone projects. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around. Take care.